Welcome to the last edition of the Pioneer Sideline. Before spring break, this week on the Sideline we'll be talking about the last week of the regular season for the basketball teams. Then we'll be talking about the baseball and softball teams as they get ready to head to the Sunshine State to start their seasons. Then two of our reporters will be joining us to talk about the NFL Combine. Then we'll finish up with the show with the Pioneer reporters. So are you ready to head on down to the Pioneer Sideline? Welcome to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Kyle Anthony. We will send it over to the men's side to see how their last weekend of the regular season went. So we will hand it over to Alex Martich, who's ready to check into the game.
The Point Park men's basketball team not only was back in action this week, but they were back in action winning twice in back-to-back games this weekend in Louisville in matches versus IU Southeast and IU Kokomo. The men's team traveled to Kentucky on Thursday as they prepared for their final games before the start of the KIAC tournament. And in their first one, they defeated IU Southeast in a close one, 86-84. The Pioneers led the Grenadiers by 19 points with 16 minutes remaining, but Point Park still were able to hold them off for the remainder of the game. Once again, the Pioneers were led by senior Kelvin Goodwin, who put up 22 points, and Art Christian, who had another 19. While once again, Jeremy Williams contributed in multiple assets of the game with 10 points and 10 assists. Following their win on Friday, there was no time to celebrate as the men knew they would have to do the same thing the next day in a match against IU Kokomo and ruin Kokomo's senior night 99-98. Again, Kelvin Goodwin had one of the games of his life, and the party continued as he dominated the competition, putting up 31 points against Kokomo and shooting 83% from beyond the arc, nearly posting a triple-double with 10 assists and 8 rebounds, in addition to the 31 points that he had in the match. In addition to the strong performance from Goodwin, they leaned on their pillar for the entire season, which you guessed it right, was Jeremy Williams. He had another solid performance with 24 points and 6 assists. The match against IU Kokomo concluded what had been a reasonable season, but ended with an impressive 6-game winning streak as they head into the tournament as the number 2 seed to play tomorrow night at 7 p.m. in the CCAC South Gym against number 3 seed Brescia. The Pioneers are 7-1 in their last 8 games, a streak that dates back over a month to a win January 19th against Carlo. In their lone meeting of the season, though, the Pioneers lost to Brescia 70-58. Which was one of the Pioneers' lowest point totals for the entire season. This was the 5th game in 8 days that the Pioneers had played, which would leave one to believe that fatigue must have played a role in the game. Wednesday night will mark the 2nd year in a row that the teams will meet in the KIAC tournament. Last year, Point Park won in impressive fashion, 99-84.
Now, Alex, what will the team need to do to score more than 58 points in this matchup?
Well, Kyle, you know that it's been Kelvin Goodwin and Jeremy Williams who have, just led the team the entire season. Obviously, I think the biggest thing that's going to play a role in this game is the fact that this isn't the Point Park's 5th game in 8 days. While they did have 2 games over the weekend, they'll have had 4 nights to get some rest. I think that's going to be the biggest difference maker.
Now, if the Pioneers are able to get past Brescia, what does the road look like after that? Do the Pioneers have a good chance to make a run to nationals?
Don't get me wrong. I think that they have a good chance, probably not as good of a chance as last year. But, whenever you have a player in Kelvin Goodwin who can put up 31 points and nearly a triple-double on any given night, anything's possible. So I guess we're just going to have to wait and see.
Thanks, Alex. Now we will send it over to Mike Turk to tell us if the team got tripped up in the last weekend of the season.
The Pioneers hit the road this past week as they finished off the final 2 games of their regular season schedule in Indiana. They dropped their first game of the road trip to IU Southeast by a final score of 70-61. Leah Hurst led all scorers with 15 points, Alexis Zanakis chipped in 12, and Carly Force and Shania Rivers contributed 9 points each. That loss meant that Point Park would have to play a road game in the opening round of the KIAC tournament, as there was mathematically no way the Pioneers could climb up to the second place in the Colonial Division. They then went on to play IU Kokomo in the regular season finale. The Pioneers were able to come away with a 64-55 win in this one, as Alexis Zanakis showed some senior leadership in this one and led the team with 18 points and draining 3 threes. Selena DePietro and Shania Rivers scored 12 points apiece as well. The Pioneers found a way to win despite missing a major key player in this one. Leading rebounder and shot blocker Bailey Buleka missed her 4th straight game due to injury. That win wrapped up a roller coaster of a regular season for the women. They finished the regular season with a 19-10 overall record and a 12-5 KIAC record. They will be the number 3 seed in the KIAC tournament as they travel to play the number 2 seed, Brescia. Now, Point Park beat Brescia back on November 21st at home by 6 points despite having a very sluggish first half. The game will be played this Wednesday evening at 7.
Now, Mike, what will the Pioneers need to do to get a second win versus this team?
Well, it's going to be difficult for them, I think, this time around. They have to play all 4 quarters, which they did not do the first time they played them. They went into halftime trailing by 12, and they just had a really good offensive showing in the second half. So if they want to win this game, they have to play all 4 quarters in this one, Kyle.
Now, is there anything Coach Grenick can do to make sure his team comes out and plays all 4 quarters?
Well, Coach Grenick's team has been very inconsistent shooting from outside this year. We all know it. If you look at the stats, you know it. But he still really encourages his team to take the outside shot. I say try to work that ball in down low with Buleka or Carly Forrest. Even Caitlin Smith, the freshman guard, she is great at driving to the lane, but he still encourages her to shoot from outside. Let your players go to the rim.
Thanks, Mike. When we return to the Pioneer Sideline, we will preview the baseball and softball seasons as they get ready for the first pitch.
Start your morning with City News.
Start your morning with campus news.
Start your morning with political coverage.
Start your morning with fun.
Start your morning with us, only on Daybreak.
Did you know that Point Park has a cheerleading squad?
Don't get it confused.
Not only do our cheerleaders represent Point Park at regional and national competitions, but they also promote spirit and awareness of every sports team on campus. Come to any men's or women's varsity basketball game at home to watch the cheerleaders perform at halftime and cheer from the sidelines from the first jump ball to the final buzzer. Sports not your thing? You can catch the cheer team lead the crowd at the fall and spring pep rallies as well, or at several competitions around Pittsburgh each year. So what are you waiting for? Show the Point Park cheerleaders the support they show you.
We know you're wondering what the A-list celebrities are up to.
Well, here at Entertainment on Point, we're wondering too.
Have you heard about James Franco and Seth Rogen's new movie?
No, but have you heard Beyonce's new single?
Did you see what she was wearing on that red carpet?
Honey, that was not cute.
Did you see what happened on Scandal this week?
No, I was too busy keeping up with the Kardashians.
No matter what your guilty pleasure is, we've got you covered.
Entertainment on Point. Get to the point of pop culture.
Yeah!
With the baseball season starting in the days to come, we will be talking with reporter Robert Gomez, who will tell us everything we need to know going into the season.
After falling just short of the NAIA Baseball National Championship Tournament, the Point Park baseball team hopes to get back to the national tournament for the 4th time in 5 years. Under KIAC Baseball Coach of the Year, Lauren Torres, the Bisons look to start the season with a strong group of returning players. Led by seniors KIAC Pitcher of the Year Jason Kim, along with Gold Glove winning and first team All-Conference center fielder Demetrius Moore, these two are just the tip of the iceberg of talented young players. Point Park is typically known for having a strong pitching staff. In the past 5 seasons, the Point Park pitching staff as a whole has recorded a sub-4 ERA. Two pitchers looking to continue their success from last season are senior Jared Brown and Jake Haru. But with a long, rigorous season ahead, Point Park is going to need key contributions from top to bottom in their rotation. Now on the offensive side of the ball, seniors Andy Chacon and Shane Conley, along with underclassmen Eddie Dominguez and Stefan Mercanja, are expected to continue their success from last season and be great spark plugs for the Bisons. But just like the pitching staff, this offense can't expect to be carried by 4 or 5 players. In order to have a successful season, the Bisons are going to need help 1 through 9 this year. And if they expect to go deep in the playoffs, they're going to need even more support from their players coming off the bench. Now, like the good old saying goes, offense wins games, but defense wins championships. And that is exactly what Point Park is going to need throughout the year. Through 50 games last season, Point Park committed 71 errors. That's roughly 1.4 errors a game. Now, that may not seem like much, but if you were to combine that with the 89 walks the pitching staff gave up, that comes out to roughly 3 free unearned bases a game. Again, that may not seem like a lot, but when 8 out of your last 13 losses are decided by 3 runs or less, those 3 free bases are huge. Now, with the new season right around the corner, we'll see if the Bisons are able to tighten up their defense to complement their strong pitching staff and solid offense.
Thanks, Robert. Now we will hand it over to Josh Krupp, who will be breaking down the softball team.
Thanks, Kyle. After a disappointing end to the 2015 season, the Pioneer softball team is back in action this weekend in Florida to begin their 2016 campaign. The Pioneers finished last season with a 21-7 KIAC record and a 28-16 overall record. However, their quest for a KIAC title fell short on day 1 of the conference tournament. The number 2 seeded Pioneers began the tournament with an 8-0 win over Midway at noon. The Pioneers then lost to the 3 seed Rio Grande in the second round game. Later in the evening, the Pioneers were eliminated after falling to Brescia in the losers bracket 9-0. The Pioneers are back this year after losing 9 seniors to graduation, including KIAC Player of the Year first baseman Karen Mao. The senior finished with a batting average just shy of 400 with 56 RBIs and 7 home runs. Last year, Point Park softball team fielded 7 players that were included on the KIAC All-Conference first team, the most in the conference. But of those All-Conference team members, only 2 were seniors. The Pioneers will field a team this year mixed with veterans and youth in the lineup. Senior Hannah Harley is coming off an impressive 2015 campaign that earned the righty all KIAC first team honors. She went 11-4 with a 3.45 ERA in 19 games, including 11 complete games. Taylor Geary leads the seniors in the outfield. The senior was the leadoff hitter for the Pioneers in every game last year and finished with a .543 slugging percentage and a .352 batting average. Sophomore catcher Jess Beitler brings power to the offense and a perfect 2015 fielding percentage behind the plate. The McKeesport High School product hit .456 last year, good for second in the conference. She hit 7 home runs and 32 RBIs on the year. Now, the 2015-16 recruiting class added 5 players to the program that has 4 hitters and 2 pitchers returning. Ashley Ingema joins the pitching staff after recording 500 strikeouts and posting a 2.20 ERA in 4 years at South Fayette High School. Joining the Pioneers in the field include utility player Chelsea Rogel, sophomore transfer from Edinburgh University, West Mifflin High School outfielder Shannon Davis, who hits 379 with 31 RBIs in her senior season, Carmichael's High School pitcher Erica Burns, and Newcastle High School catcher Delaney Baumis. The Pioneers start the year in Florida over spring break with non-conference spring training games, and their first KIAC game is March 18th at Cincinnati Christian.
Thanks for the preview, Josh. The NFL season may be over, but the offseason is just starting, and when we return, we will break down the NFL Combine.
Here at the Pioneers Sideline, we get freshmen involved as quickly as possible so they get the real-world experience on air and behind the scenes to set themselves apart in internships and potential jobs. Blaine, where is that video? I needed it in KeyPro like yesterday.
All right, I got you, Chris. But I had a quick question for you guys.
What do you mean the questions? It's always a question. It's always a... What? Where is he?
Blaine! Freshman, you can't find any good ones anymore.
Ever wanted to be behind the mic and have the world listening to your show on campus? Well, it's just as simple as joining WPPJ, Point Park's student-run radio station, located on the second floor of Lawrence Hall, right next to the dining services. Listeners can tune in using Point Park's website or through the TuneIn app by searching WPPJ. WPPJ welcomes any new DJs that want to get involved, so be heard. Do you have what it takes?
All great NFL teams are built by two things, the NFL draft and free agency. So, we're time to talk about the draft with the NFL Combine, which is the first step for all these prospects. So guys, I'm joined by Alex Martage and Blaine King. Guys, what do you think is the most important part of the Combine? Starting with you, Mr. King.
I actually think it's the interview portion of the Combine, because that's how you can actually tell if if you're going to have a player with a good head on his shoulders, or if you're going to have one of those knuckleheads, because they're always going to be in the spotlight, especially if you're a first-round draft pick. And also, you got to consider what they're going to say out of their mouths in any situation. So I think it's the interview part.
You know, I really like where you're coming at from, Blaine. Personally, I first originally thought, let's look at all the drills and, compare all of them. Personally, I think that the cone drill is the most important, and I'll tell you why. I think that the 40-yard dash is the most overrated but the most exciting part of the Combine. Personally, because how often are you actually just going to be running in a straight line 40 yards down the field? I understand that you do have the deep threats, and that is important, but I think, hey, that's what made Jerry Rice. But the interview portion is extremely important too, because you get to know who the person is.
I agree with the interview portion. I think that and the mock press interviews that these players are going to do are the most important part. Now, there's a strong second-tier quarterbacks. We got Connor Cook. We got Dak Prescott. How important is this week for them, for those guys that come have a strong showing and show that they have the smarts on the board and they have the arm strength to go with it?
Well, we have such a variety of quarterbacks in this year's NFL Combine. I think the one that is most intriguing to me, though, would probably be Christian Hackenberg from Penn State, purely because for the majority of his college career, I feel like we just keep on hearing, oh, Christian Hackenberg is such a great player and just doesn't have that much of a supporting cast at Penn State. But don't worry, whenever he gets to the NFL, he'll do great things, and he's kind of in that second-tier area. I think that he has a lot to prove and also a lot of upside.
Yeah, I was going to agree too. I was thinking Christian Hackenberg is one of the top tier the second tier quarterbacks that need to have a big day. Dak Prescott, he's working his way up. He had a big career down at Mississippi State.
And the Senior Bowl was very big.
Yes, and he can also build his draft stock to possibly become a second round.
Well, speaking of draft stock, we'll go to the next question. Is what players in your mind need to have a good combine? Starting with you, Mr. King.
Again, I'm going to say Christian Hackenberg because honestly, we've all, like Alex pointed out, we've heard the hype throughout college. Oh, he just doesn't have a supporting cast. Bill O'Brien, he left. I think it's time. If he has a great combine, he was projected as a first-round draft pick for a while.
What about you, Mr. Martage?
Blaine, I like the way you're thinking today. I think that Christian Hackenberg is one of them. One person that I specifically look to, and I kind of narrow down who I'm going to be looking at, because I think that the Combine is especially important for those skill position players. And so I looked at someone like Will Fuller, the wide receiver out of Notre Dame. He is supposed to have unprecedented speed, and I think that with the platform to prove it, that this could be very important for him.
Well, I'm going to go totally different. I'm going to go to a player who was a first-round pick going into the year, but has kind of fallen off. I'm going to go to Bilal Alexander. He plays offensive tackle for LSU. His most success has been at guard because after Linnell Collins left, he moved to tackle, struggled a bit. All right, guys, who's a player that's going to be a workout warrior? What's the name? Who you got?
Well, from the few things that I've heard, you guys know what the teams that I like and what I follow.
Just say Joey Bosa.
I'm not going to say Joey Bosa.
Brad,
I think that he's going to be a great player. No, what I actually have read, though, is Darren Lee, who is supposed to be a first-round draft pick. He's a linebacker. He's dropped 20 pounds since the end of last season, and he was already projected as one.
I don't like to hear stats like that. Tell me, Blaine.
That's not a stat. That's how much he weighs.
Yeah, okay. You know what? Weight and measurements. That is a stat.
I'm going to go Laramie Tunsil from Mississippi State. I think he's going to be the workout warrior.
I'm going to go to Waco, Texas. I'm going to go with a dude that's about 6'8", about 310. I'm going to go to Sean Oakman, who basically is a waste as a football player, but the dude throws up weight. Now, who do you guys think are the best offensive player we know about and the best player we don't know about? Name and school.
Best offensive player that we know about, I think, even though despite the fact that he has been so underplayed in the NFL draft preparatory phase, I think that Derrick Henry is going to be the next Adrian Peterson.
Ooh, that's a lot. Best off player, I'm going to go again, Laramie Tunsil, offensive lineman. He's projected to go #1 in the draft. Unknown, and he technically is known, but I'm going to go with Kevin Hogan from Stanford, quarterback.
Quarterbacks? Really?
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go wide receiver. I'm going to go to the Sooner State. I'm going to go with the best route runner in the draft. I'm going to go to Sterling Shepard's the most underrated person. Laramie Tunsil's kind of plain. I actually think the best player in the draft offensively is no one. None of them overbear me. None of them I can say are going to translate great.
It's a defensively powered draft.
That's what we're going to next, guys. Who's the best player on defense that we know and don't know about? We'll start with Blaine, since I think I know where you're going to go.
All right, defensively, I'm going to go with the linebacker out of Ohio State. I'm not Ohio State, excuse me. You got me thinking of Ohio State.
Oh, excuse me.
UCLA, excuse me. Miles Jack. I think he's the best defensive player. And unknown, I'm going to take it back to now my hometown, and the linebacker from Temple, Tyler Matovic, the outside linebacker. He's 6 foot, but he is the Bronco Nagurski winner. So
I think you guys know who I'm going to say. Frankly, because I've
Who's
watched
your
him
unknown player, then?
his
I know
entire
you were
career.
taking Joey
For the record,
Bosa.
it's Joey Bosa. But my under the radar player who in the draft process has become very low key, but if you watch Big Ten football, is definitely not, is Carl Nassib, the defensive end from Penn State. One of the best players, one of the most under the radar players in this draft, who I think is going to have a magnificent NFL career.
All right, my best defensive player, I'm going to go to a dude that can play 2 positions. I'm going to go to Jalen Ramsey, secondary player out of Florida State. And my unknowns, I got 2. First, we're going to start in East Lansing, Shaq Calhoun. The second tier of defensive linemen, very good against the run, even better against the pass. And then I'm going to go cornerback Zach Sanchez out of Oklahoma, 2-time Big 12 first-teamer. All right, after this, guys, we're going to bring a couple of our reporters back in. Time for another episode of Pioneer Reporters and a couple great topics.
Every human being has a purpose, has a dream to have their voices heard, no matter where they come from, no matter where they go. As an American, it is their right to have freedom of speech. I have a dream that one day this message will speak louder than words, that even the quietest voice will not go unnoticed. That is my dream. What is yours? For more information, visit www.freedomofspeechpsa.org.
Welcome back to another segment of the Pioneer Reporters. I'm joined by newcomers Robert Gomez, then we have Sarah Maculin, and now our old friend, Josh Group. All right, guys, we're going to start off down in the old Bluegrass State, talking about the Louisville Cardinals and the punishment that they imposed on themselves for supposedly breaking some NCAA rules, because allegedly one of their coaches was bringing in escorts to help them get recruits. What do you guys think about them self-imposing the punishment, the crime? What do you guys think?
Escorts, meaning prostitutes. It was alleged that prostitutes were coming in, and this assistant coach was bringing them in and saying, hey, a few of the recruits, you can go in the back here, and I have a lady back here for you. And then some of these recruits said that they continued this as players. And they found out, and all of a sudden they come out and they say, we're going to punish ourselves, guys, so the NCAA doesn't have to come down on us. I don't know what you guys think.
I mean, all colleges are doing that because it looks bad if this comes out and they didn't do anything about it. So, I mean, I agree with them self-imposing the ban, but it's the NCAA's job to do this. They should get ahead of this, but it's a problem with consistency, too. In all their bans and punishments, they're never consistent. So I think that's a big issue, too.
Robert?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a smart move on Louisville to try and hopefully they don't get as big as a punishment. You know, that with the NCAA, they're getting, the acknowledgement that they know it was wrong, and so hopefully they get a lesser punishment from the NCAA.
Why punish the guys on this year's team?
Exactly. That's my point. This is how I'm going to end it. I don't think these players should get punished. I think they should wait to get their punishment. Listen, the only reason they got dabbed is because Rick Pitino has a little bit of a bad streak from when he got caught with somebody he shouldn't have been caught with. Listen, you don't penalize these kids. Two of the best teams in the country aren't going to be in the NCAA tournament because of self-imposed punishments. Now we'll go to a happier thing. Spring training baseball.
Oh,
yes.
All right.
There we go.
Who's a player or two players to watch for in spring training?
I'll let you start.
All right, so two of the players I think are easily Jose Fernandez from the Marlins. I mean, he's coming off that Tommy John surgery from a year ago. He's finally probably fully healthy, and he's just going to have just the nastiest stuff. And the second guy is a bullpen from my hometown, Hunter Strickland. That guy throws gas. He's starting to learn how to pitch really well, use that different off speeds. He can't blow it by them with those 98-mile-per-hour fastballs. Starting to learn to change up, a little bit of a slider. He's going to come back this year.
It's an even year. I don't think you win the World Series, though.
Oh, I don't know about
All right, that's a topic for a different time.
You want to go?
Players to watch. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I think one of the top ones on my list was shortstop Carlos Correa for the Houston Astros. I mean, last year it was his rookie season, and he only played, and he had 22 home runs in 90 games. So can you imagine what he's going to do when he gets the full 160 games? I think he's definitely going to be a potential up there to dethrone the likes of Trout and Harper. And then my number two, I like Zach Greinke. I mean, granted, yeah, it's not a watch out like, oh, is he going to do so much better than last year, because can't get much better than last year. He had a 1.66 ERA. But the question is, how is he going to do with this adjustment moving to Arizona? Because it's a hitter's ballpark. It's a smaller park, so more home runs. So, I mean, I don't think he's going to struggle this year, but I definitely think his ERA isn't going to be the same as last year.
Hey, Josh. How dare you try to take my job and steal my lines? Now, I tell you when to talk. They were all doing fine. Why you got button? Now it's your turn. You get one person. You don't get two like everybody else.
Kyle Anthony is my player to watch this year.
Well, I'd watch me too, but not realistically.
I was going to go Jung Ho Kang with the Pirates, but we'll go Adam Wainwright because he's coming off that season, had the Achilles injury. He played a little bit towards the end of last year, but I think Adam Wainwright's my player
I guess
to watch.
Paul Daniels would be proud of you and say this is the reason why we should have a DH everywhere. But I'll let you go back to being a second chair, buddy. My player to watch, I'm going to go with a dude who's healthy for the first time in a long time. I'm going to go with Manny Machado. Manny Machado's playing better on defense. His power is going up, but I kind of want to see some of that power go away and see his average improve. I'm a big Manny Machado fan. I think he could be the next A-Rod when A-Rod was young. They're built the same way. So we'll see where that goes. Now we'll go to your thoughts on Heath Miller's retirement, people. Oh, you don't get to talk.
I'm not going to say anything.
I mean, I definitely thought it was something that was really unexpected. I didn't see it coming. I mean, he is definitely one of the guys that, I'm not saying like he backed out too early, but he was one of the guys where like, oh, you weren't expecting it. I mean, he's missed 8 regular season games in his 11 seasons. But I definitely think the Steelers are going to have some big shoes to fill. I mean, he was that safety valve on offense, and they have Jesse James, who they just drafted, and Spaeth. But, I mean, that's definitely going to change the way they approach the draft, because I definitely think they need to look for a tight end.
Robert?
You know, I was a little surprised, too, by his retirement. But if you think about it, he's been in the league 11 years. 11 long years. And those are football years, too. Those ain't baseball or basketball years. Those are
really
football
he's about
years.
72.
So pretty close. But, I mean, especially recently with all the facts coming out about with CTE and all this other stuff, Patrick Willis, all these other guys going out pretty soon. I mean, it kind of doesn't surprise me. But it did give me a surprise that Heath Miller did leave the game this early.
Now you can talk.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you didn't cut me off. Heath Miller, the Steelers lose not only a great tight end, but a great guy. We're going to miss that presence on the field. I don't know what you think, Kyle, but I'm going to miss Heath Miller. He won me a couple fantasy championships in the day.
R.I.P., buddy. No, I think he's going to be very sorely missed. I think he was a good player. And despite what Tyler Cahill's saying in the control room that he wasn't very good and he was old school tight ends still have a job. Look at Jason Witten. Look at Antonio Gates. And yes, I think the Steelers do need more of a receiving tight end. But you know what? Heath Miller did the job, and he is 6th all-time in receiving yards for tight ends. So, thank you all for joining us for another Pioneer Sideline. So join us in a couple weeks at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and of course, the same Pioneer sideline.